For centuries, Somalia has stood at the crossroads of Africa, the Middle East, and the Indian Ocean, a land rich in culture, resilience, and strategic value. Yet for more than 100 years, Somalia has been a battleground, not just of guns and armies, but of ideas, power, and control. External empires, regional rivals, internal factions, all are competing over the land, and while those forces fight, it is ordinary Somali people who pay the price. In this segment, we explore why Somalia has been fought over for centuries, and how these political struggles continue to destabilize the country and harm its people. Before colonial borders, Somali society was not chaotic or stateless. Somalis governed themselves through customary law, enforced by elders and community consensus. But this strategic location would soon attract outside powers. In the late 19th century, European powers carved Africa into colonies, a period known as the Scramble for Africa. Somalilands were split apart by the British, Italian, and French colonials into the north, south, Djibouti, and the Ogaden and Northern Frontier District. In 1899, armed resistance erupted across the Somali interior. It would grow into one of the longest and bloodiest anti-colonial struggles in sub-Saharan Africa. At its center stood the Somali Dervish movement, a militant, religious, and political force that refused to accept foreign rule. From its emergence at the turn of the 20th century, the Dervish movement waged a sustained military campaign against British, Italian, and Ethiopian forces. This was not a single uprising. It was a war that stretched across more than 2 decades. One of its earliest and most significant clashes came in 1900 at the Battle of Jigjiga, where Dervish fighters attacked Ethiopian forces allied with colonial powers. The battle brought the movement regional prominence and sent a clear message: colonial control over Somali land would not go uncontested. For years, the Dervish resistance disrupted colonial expansion across the Somali peninsula. Contrary to European expectations, Somalia proved difficult to subdue. At various points, the dervishes repelled colonial advances, forcing imperial administrators to abandon assumptions of easy governance. Under the leadership of Sayyid Muhammad Abdullahi Hassan, the movement established a centralized command structure, rare for resistance movements of the era. In northern Somali territories, the dervishes maintained relative autonomy, controlling land, mobilizing fighters, and enforcing authority beyond the reach of the colonial authorities. For a time, the dream of a Somali state free from foreign control seemed possible. Yet endurance alone was not enough. Despite its determination, the dervish movement faced structural weaknesses that would ultimately undermine its survival. The dervish polity operated from shifting local centers rather than from a geographically consolidated state. Territory changed hands frequently. Supply lines were fragile. Administrative reach was limited. Without a fixed capital or durable institutions, long-term state formation proved elusive. Colonial powers adapted. British forces, often working in coordination with Ethiopian troops and Italian interests, launched repeated counterinsurgency campaigns. What had once been isolated colonial efforts became coordinated regional pressure. As World War I reshaped global alliances, the dervishes lost potential external support from broader anti-colonial powers, including the Ottoman Empire. The resistance increasingly stood alone. By 1920, the balance of power shifted decisively. The British introduced modern military tactics, including aerial bombardment, one of the first uses of air power in African colonial warfare. Dervish fortifications, once formidable, were destroyed from the sky. The technological gap proved insurmountable. Under sustained pressure, the dervish movement collapsed. Its main bases fell, its fighters dispersed, and shortly after, Syed Muhammad Abdullahi Hassan died after a long illness. The dervish state did not survive, but its legacy did. Though it failed to secure lasting independence, the dervish movement reshaped Somali political consciousness. It proved that colonial rule could be resisted, that Somaliland was worth fighting for, and that foreign control would never be fully accepted.